Welcome back to the channel for an exciting video. I'm going to be recapping my Ironman 70.3 Santa Cruz race and take you along for the weekend. If you're new to the channel, my name is Annie. I started racing and documenting my triathlon journey on TikTok in 2022, and this year I finally expanded to YouTube. I went over it in my previous video, but Jacob and I will be camping out of the van for this race again after successfully doing it during Morro Bay 70.3. We headed straight to the village when we got into town and picked up our bib numbers, and then it was time to meet with my coach and our crew to go for an open water swim. It's coming up. 1,000 yards.
I did 1,052.
16 minutes. 136 pace. Woo. I did not do it justice, but there were an insane amount of seals out there. We saw like 50 of them out there when we got to the end of the pier, and it was freaking scary. There's seal! Woo! This seal was far from us, but I swear the ones out there were about 10 feet and they were everywhere, so it really freaked me out, but I knew on race day it wouldn't be that big of a deal, and it was really fun swimming with a big group of people before race day. Was it worth saving on hotel fees? I think so. It actually feels pretty good. I think because it's been warm. The water in Morro Bay was horrible. The van does the trick for these trips, but it definitely does make every process 1,000 times longer. For example, like showering, or cooking, or cleaning, or getting dressed, or anything. How is it, Jacob?
This is where it's at.
Betty's Burgers.
Curly fries. Burger. The bomb.
After an awesome dinner, we called it a night and found a place to park. I made my pillar performance and headed to bed and actually got the best night's sleep ever. And it did the trick. I mean, just look at that score. I'm actually super particular about my sleep 2 nights before the race because I know the night before I'm going to get horrible sleep because I'm super nervous. Look at this fog. You think we're gonna get a canceled swim? We can hope and pray, but that's not how I want to get sub 5, so I don't know.
That's how
I'll be happy either way.
That's how I want to get sub 5. What?
Traveling the country with it for the last year.
Wow, you're crazy. Good luck tomorrow. Hey, Chris.
Hi.
Hi, Ida. Chris.
Wait, is this going on?
Guglielmo Schiavone. And Jacob down. And me. $7 p.m. 12 hours till race day. Living the life. Got my Sprite.
Just cooked a nice dinner. You ready? 12 hours.
I am ready. I'm feeling good.
12 hours to the start, 17 hours to her finish.
Woo.
Or should I say 16 hours and 59 minutes. Nice.
Annie, let's go. Okay, you're in first. The person behind you's 30 seconds back.
She's from Corona, California. 24 hours. Annie Swearsick.
Wow, what a day. Finally back at the car. It's been a couple hours since I finished. I will wrap you guys up when I can talk. Now it is time for the long-awaited race recap. It is 3 days since the race. I didn't get too much footage from the day because my cameraman, aka Jacob, was racing as well. So let's get into it. I felt really calm the entire weekend. I wasn't stressed about the race at all, but all that goes out the window the night of the race. I always have pretty bad sleep. Almost all my dreams are about me like forgetting something on the way to transition or stuff like that. Just like, oh my God, I think I got like 5 hours of sleep. I'll put my sleep score here. We woke up at 4 a.m. and the first thing I do is make some coffee and a water bottle of electrolytes. And then I start getting ready and I just sip on those things. And by the time I was done finishing the coffee and the water, I was like, I feel really sick. And we're in the van, we're in a random street on the road, and I was just like, dude, I think I'm gonna throw up. Jacob's like, really? I'm like, yeah, like it was like right here or whatever. I like walk out the van and there's people outside, so I was like, oh, great, like, I can't really throw up right now. So I like went back into the van. And originally I make some white bread and jam for my breakfast. I just have something super simple, but the thought of eating that in that moment, just like, there was no way. So I made the breakfast and my plan was to eat it at transition, just like give myself some time, maybe this would pass. We start walking to transition and I just told Jacob, like, I have to pull trigger, like I cannot keep going. And I just went to a bush and just let it out. And I let out a little bit and it was all water and coffee and I felt like 50% better. And I was like, okay, that's a good place to start, I guess. So let's keep going. And then mid-sentence, I'm telling Jacob, like, yeah, I think I feel, and I just like projectile vomited all over the sidewalk. Thankfully, like no one was around and it wasn't like a popular sidewalk. No one was gonna really be in that area, but it was all water. And I was like, okay, I feel way better now. But still the thought of eating like the white bread and jam was like not gonna happen. Thankfully, I packed some honey stinger waffles from thefeed.com and that's what I had. And I was just like kind of like eating it barely in the course of like an hour. And that was my breakfast before the race. And I'm very used to having a very like a lighter breakfast for races because that just works better for me. I'd rather eat more during the race. I think it's all nerves, I think, is what's getting to me. But thankfully it worked out. I'm glad that I got it out while I could, not during the swim or something, but that's how it went. So I got my stuff ready in transition. We headed to the swim start, which was about half a mile away from transition. The beach, I thought the vibes were like really cool. Like the sand felt really nice. We were able to hop into the water. I met up with my friends there, which always makes me feel better, like just being distracted by people, not being in my head. Like I think if you see me in transition, this is how I look most of the time. I just stare at my stuff and I just like get into my head. So if someone's there that I could talk to, that is perfect. So I was talking to some people, Jacob was there, and I hopped in the water, which I thought was really nice to do before the race. Instantly when I hopped in, my goggles filled up with water, so I was able to like readjust and get them to be perfect. It was really foggy in the morning, so I was wearing my clear, dorky Blue 70 goggles. And although it was foggy, you could easily see the next buoy coming up to you, so it wasn't like a huge deal. And I'd rather deal with fog than like sun in my eyes. That's usually the case at Oceanside or whatever. Hopped in the water. They said it was 59 degrees. It definitely was not 59 degrees. It was probably more like 63 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. But I actually wore my thermal cap anyways because when we did our open water swim on Friday, I actually got kind of a headache from, even though the water didn't feel cold to me, like I'm very used to cold water, it was giving me a headache. So the thermal cap that I wear covers my ears. So I decided to wear that. That was not anyone's decision around me though. Like I was the only one wearing a thermal cap, but I'm very happy I did because it never made me feel too hot or anything. And I got no headaches. And then it was time to start the swim. I had my first gel of the day, a salted lime rock tangu, and then I was in the water at 7:07. It was really important to note that it was 7:07 because I needed to be done with the race by 12:07. My number one goal of the day was to get under 5 hours, so hopefully I would be done before 12:07. My biggest goal for the swim was I really wanted to find feet. I have only found feet during one race, and if you don't know, drafting behind someone on the swim makes it a lot easier. You don't have to sight, and it makes the work a lot easier, but the feet that I found in front of me were too slow, so then I was like, oh damn it, I just kept swimming on my own, and I kept trying to find feet. They weren't the perfect pace for me, and I was alone on the way out to the end of the pier. To me, it felt like the end of the pier was taking forever, and we went like way past the pier than I was expecting, and I was like, damn, like when do we turn around? And eventually we turned around. There was a current out there. It wasn't horrible at all. Like, I mean, considering we were in the sea and it didn't really feel that way, then I was happy with that. And I almost forgot to mention that I saw a seal under the water. He was like 5 feet under me, and I just see his head, and then it just disappears. And I was like, oh my God, I just kept swimming because it's like, what am I gonna do, you know? So I kept swimming, but that was scary. And finally, with about 800 yards left, I found the perfect feet, and I stayed on them the entire time. I think my paces went up. I actually want to check that out. Okay, let's see. So on the way out to the pier, I was doing about a 139 per 100-yard pace, and then once I found feet, it looks like I was going 133 per 100 yards, and my goal was to do, I think it was like a 134 per 100. I don't know if these paces are completely right because my watch, sometimes the GPS is weird, but my total time was 32 minutes and 47 seconds. Which was a 132 per 100-yard pace, which I was super happy with. 7th in my age group, which is super typical for me on the swims. I think that's actually the highest I've ever been. Usually I'm like 11th place in my age group coming out of the swim. So I was on track, I was happy. And then I wanted to give myself 5 minutes in transition 1. Which sounds long, but this transition was half a mile long, and it was slightly uphill, and it was on rough roads. Some people even left shoes in the sand to put on shoes to run through the asphalt, which I didn't think was necessary, but that just kind of shows, like, you know, it was rough. I was huffing and puffing in transition because I knew that's like the easiest way to gain time in the day, and I ended up doing transition 1 in exactly 5 minutes, my predicted time, which I thought was awesome. 5 minutes on the dot. I was at 37 minutes and 47 seconds on the day, and we were heading out to the bike. I felt really strong, even though I was throwing up in the morning and whatever the hell was going on, but I was ready to go on that bike, and I went out hard. Because we've been doing insanely long training days because we have an Ironman in 7 weeks, it felt like the bike was super short, and I felt like I could take risks. I think in the first 30 minutes, my normalized power was 178, which is pretty good for me. I would say the biggest issue of the day was it was really foggy on the ride, and my visor fogged up, and I was like I don't know if I should like wipe it, if that's gonna make it worse or better, and I eventually decided to wipe it, and it made everything like gray. It just made the visor like disgusting. I don't know what was on my hands or something, I don't know, because I have wiped the visor before with no problems, but it made it like I was blinded, so I had to take off the visor. You can like stick it to the back of the helmet, which probably was not great for aerodynamics, but it did feel amazing on my face, like to have the wind like just rush straight up on my face, so I really liked that part of it. It was out and back on PCH, it was rolling hills, which at first glance I was really terrified of. I am not the most confident rider sometimes, and I thought that I was going to be coming out of the bars a lot on the downhills, but I actually wasn't. I was really confident. They were perfect. Nothing was too crazy of a grade or anything. If you look back at my predictions in my previous video, I talked about how I was gonna go hard on the way out and hopefully have a little bit of a break on the way back in because I thought we were gonna have a tailwind. But once I made that turnaround, I was like, wait, I think there's still a headwind or crosswinds or something. It's just like there definitely wasn't a tailwind, and my miles per hour did not go up. So I knew, okay, we're gonna keep pushing. And at that halfway point, I was at 1 hour and 18 minutes on the day, and my goal was to do 2 hours and 35 minutes, which is almost perfectly halfway. So I knew I had to push hard on the way back into town. I was all alone the way back in, and there was a girl drafting behind me the entire time, even though I was giving her looks, like, didn't work. She was there the entire time. Doesn't matter. I got back into town in 2 hours, 35 minutes, and 45 seconds. So 45 seconds longer than my anticipated prediction, but a great PR for me, and I was still on track for sub 5. And I do need to note that I felt amazing getting off the bike, and I think that was due to my nutrition. Typically, I was doing like 60 to 70 carbs per hour on the bike, and this time I did 90 grams of carbs per hour. The past like 5 months or so, I've been really trying to hone in on getting like the perfect nutrition strategy. Been trying like everything I can from the feed, and I'm so glad I finally figured it out. I had 2 bottles of carb mix and 5 gels. Let me go grab them real quick. I had a bottle of Blank Sports Nutrition. There was 75 grams of carbs in this. I had a bottle of Scratch, 57 grams of carbs in this. And I had 2 caffeinated gels, 75 milligrams of caffeine per gel. And then I had 3 Roctane gels. These have amino acids in them, sodium, all the fun stuff. And I ended up finishing a capsule of these salt sticks, which was 500 milligrams of sodium total. And that meant I had 90 grams of carbs per hour. And then I also had 1,050 milligrams of sodium per hour. And I think that was the biggest game changer. I mean, my legs, they were ready to get off that bike, and I would hit a normalized power of 170, which is the highest I've done in a race, and I felt really good. So I got into T2. My goal was to do 2 minutes, and I did it in 1 minute and 44 seconds. And I was in first place in my age group. First thing I did when I lapped my watch is I did some mental math. I saw that I was at a total of 3 hours, 15 minutes, and 14 seconds on the day. I was 14 seconds late on my goal, but I knew I could easily make that up on the run if I pushed hard. I was gonna have to push hard. And with my mental math, I had to run a 1:44:46 half marathon, which is about an 8-minute per mile pace, or 4:59 kilometer pace, in order to get sub 5. I played it safe because I knew I needed to run an 8-minute per mile pace. I was running an average of 7:54 per mile. And that course was pretty rolling. I mean, the whole way out to the park, it's a gradual uphill, and then you get into the park, you've got gravel you're dealing with, undulating terrain and stuff. And there were some like steep hills. I mean, there's a steep hill right when you get out of transition. There's another steep hill on the way back into town. And then thankfully on the way back in, I think the last 4 miles, it's like a gradual downhill. I was running hard. I think the biggest mistake I made during the run, I think I had about 4 gels, but I really should have had around 5 or 6. I should have just been like pounded the carbs. I was really like focused on doing that on the bike. But if I want to have like a crazy run, I need to keep doing that. So in retrospect, I wish I had more carbs on the run, but I was still really proud of my effort. Unfortunately, halfway through the run, the second place girl outran me. I tried sticking with her for like 10 seconds and I was like, bye girl. She was really fast, so congrats to her. This didn't get me down too much. Obviously, I would have loved first place, but I really wanted sub 5. So I was like, just keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. I was doing mental math the entire time. Like I saw that I had 3 miles left, and I had about 24 minutes left on the clock, which meant I was still on pace, and I was running like 7:30s at the end, just trying like, let's just get this done. Like the harder I go now, the easier I can go later. And the race ends on the sand. So as I was on top of kind of the city, I could look down at the sand. And I remember I was about at 13 miles on my watch, and it's supposed to end at 13.1 miles. But I could tell like, I'm looking at this finish line and it's really far away. I'm like, oh my God, the course is long. Oh my God, I'm like, and I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, there's no way, it can't happen. But of course, I'm still like pushing hard because I can't even think right now. And I'm just pushing, and I see like my watch is counting down. It goes over 5 hours, which I was really sad about. But actually, I wasn't honestly that sad because I gave all I could. Like, I gave it my all on the bike. I gave it my all on the swim. I had like crazy PRs, and I gave it my insane all on the run. My heart rate, my average was 175 with a max of 185. I was cooking out there, but I ended with a 5:01:34. 1 minute and 34 seconds off my goal. In my heart, I did get sub 5, but on paper, I will have to try again. And I did end up in second place in my age group and 10th overall, which is insane to me. It was 10th out of 483 women, which is a crazy result to me. I'm super happy with that. Besides the race course being too long, everything went perfect for me on the day. These past few months of training like really set me up for just the perfect day. I cannot wait to see what we can do at Ironman California in 7 weeks. I have to shout out my coach Goo. Thank you so much. You made this day possible. And it was really a great weekend. I mean, I met met so many new people. I met a lot of my coach's athletes. We had a great time at awards. We went to dinner after. Happy birthday, Matt. And it really feels nice to have a race just go perfect and actually showcase like the work you've been doing. I mean, I've had some bummer days for sure. And there's nothing I enjoy more than after the race, like the vibes, you know, like there's no stress, you're only happy, and you get to celebrate all the work you did the last few months. Thank you guys for watching. We have 7 weeks until our first full Ironman. It's honestly less than 7 weeks, it's like 6.5 now. So mark your calendars, October 27th. We've got some major work to do, and I can't wait to take you guys along for the journey. So thanks again for watching, and please subscribe, it really helps. Like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.